it kind of feels like there's something quite exciting building at Spurs in terms of the older players, but then also you've got this kind of like youngsters emergence at Spurs. I mean, another youngster, Jess Naz, I've got to give a shout out to her. She's 23. She scored a goal in the 75th minute. It was ball just inside the area. Took it on the turn. First time, low driven shot, left hand corner. It was kind of like a Clinton hold my beer type moment. She did so well again to kind of adjust her body and the footwork again. Absolutely excellent. But I've known Jess for... She started at Arsenal as a youngster and then came to Spurs in the championship year just before we went into the WSL. And she was young then, but she played 17 games for us. There was 4 goals, and now she's nearly made just under 70 appearances for Spurs. So she's almost turned into sort of a silent Spurs legend. And I don't necessarily think she's had that kind of recognition yet, her kind of defining moment. But I think that she's growing. But I think from my time at Spurs, she was quite quiet. She obviously had the when we got into the WSL, she suffered an ACL injury pretty much at the start of the season, which saw her out. And I sort of had my own injuries and bits and pieces, and sort of spent quite a lot of time with her in the rehab room. And she was very kind of low key, but she had this kind of like spark and this like fiery personality. Like she would be the one who kind of backed herself in a way. Like she'd be doing these she'd be practicing her goal celebrations. That was a big thing. Like there was one goal celebration that she had, it was like a mixing bowl. So like she'd go to the corner flag and like mix it up. It was like mix it up. And as an older person in the Spurs squad, I was thinking, I don't think this is I actually don't know what the fuck this is, but I was like,
what are you doing?
I was like,
not only older person in the squad, but also a goalkeeper. So goal celebrations probably aren't your thing anyway.
Well, I was just like, if you want to visualize this, obviously, it's like, the moment that you score that goal, you get back on that pitch, that's what you want to do 100%. And then it was quite interesting to see the kind of goal celebrations and how they'd moved on, because it was like this kind of like skip thing like this.
Guys, I wish you could see which clothes.
I couldn't quite work out what it was, but she's always had that kind of spark about her. And I think she is becoming sort of like, once she's sort of found on her feet, come back from injury and sort of like getting herself, so much more game time, she's definitely sort of like one player that I think is going to progress and do business this season. But
she's another weapon for Spurs, and I think in the past she's been a bit of a super sub, understandably. She's young, and she's to come on and have a real impact. But I think the impact she's having now when she comes on is she's forcing her way into the starting 11 as well at times. So it just gives Robert another headache, which is great. And it's really fun to see how he uses all of the weapons that he has. I think Martha Thomas was playing a deeper role. I think she was playing the 10 role as well. So it's really interesting to see how she's linking up with Beth England. But when you've got Grace Clinton banging away the goals and you've got Bizette as well on the wings, like it's a very exciting style of football. It does mean they're very much focusing on the attacking play and maybe less so on the defence, which he did acknowledge in post-match that when it went to 3-3, he thought, okay, maybe we should start doing some defending, which I thought was really funny.
Well, I think, you should always really concentrate on defending. It scares me as a goalkeeper that that's sort of something that's, taken a bit of a back seat in some of these games. But I think you're completely right. There does seem to be something quite exciting building at Spurs. And it's quite interesting, I think, to see some of the older players departing in this January transfer window. We've just seen sort of Rhea Percival go out on loan to Crystal Palace. So Dorsky's left as well. So it kind of feels like, he's brought in Matilda Vinberg, Charlie Grant already this window. They're 20 and 22 years old. But it does feel like there's a kind of emergence of a new kind of Spurs identity in a way, a kind of, let's get these players, let's build them up, let's, give them game time, but also kind of bolster that, I suppose, with signings like, Beth England, like Martha Thomas as well. So, yeah, and obviously like with the new facilities and things, and it seems to be sort of heading in a very good direction.
Yeah, and I think what's really exciting is he's got a long-term vision for the club and he's thinking long-term. Soph was talking to me about how she asked him about how Spurs use the loan system, because he's spoken in press conferences about how he wants to focus more on bringing players in and making them Spurs players and having them there for across a longer contract rather than loan players. And he said that the Spurs Academy is still young in its development, but that his ultimate ambition is for Spurs to have a really strong academy where they can recruit from a young age, mould players into their own identity, and how he would love Spurs to be producing the next Lionesses from their academy. So he's got a real passion and vision, which is exciting, I think, and it's definitely something to keep an eye on. So while he may bring in Nildens on loan, for example, I think that's a bit something where there's an immediate need that he needs to address. But generally, I think he's very much focused on on really building a long-term squad, which is exciting.
I've got to say, I mean, when I was there all these many years ago, the academy was something that actually they paid quite a lot of attention to, and at the time it was there was Ak, who was sort of in and around the scenes of the Jamaican women's national team, who now is Juan Carlos, right hand man over in America, and then also you've got Laura Kaminsky as well, who's now the head coach at Crystal Palace, and Crystal Palace are obviously doing business. So they had a lot of good supporting coaches around them at that time, and there was this kind of real sense of we want to build that. In fact, I think that is one thing from that time. I'd probably say that they were doing pretty well.
So to get a manager in that's really invested in it.
Oh, 100%.
It's going to take it to the next level.
Yeah, and I think the way they were as well with the kids, I mean, there was this sense of it, it obviously being a high demanding, highly pressurised, intense environment, but I mean, they would take the piss as well. Like it was almost like you have to sort of, have that element of fun, have that element of enjoying the game, and also, build them to be in a professional environment. It was, I think they got the balance quite right. So I think maybe that's starting to sort of come to fruition at the moment.